because coaching is just guidance.
Yeah.
It's leadership.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is. But is everybody a good leader? Just
No.
because you wear that title,
No.
right?
And just because you played the sport doesn't mean you're a good coach either. Just because you know the game, that's the other piece.
It's true.
Welcome to Game Changers, Athlete Edition.
Some people that
I'm Courtney Harmon, a former Division I softball pitcher turned high-performance business coach who knows what it takes to translate athletic mindset into real-world success.
And I'm Julie Jones, a Hall of Famer and former Division I head coach with more than 20 years of experience turned mental performance coach. Together, we bridge the gap between elite athletics and lifelong achievement, helping you unlock your full potential on and off the field. This podcast is your go-to source for inspiration, motivation, amazing guests, and actionable insights to help you elevate your game.
Welcome back to another episode of Game Changers Athlete Edition. And today we're thrilled to welcome a true game changer in every sense of the word, Michael Blair, from his seasons with the Green Bay Packers, NFL Europe, XFL, arena football, his remarkable pivot to keynote speaker, life as a skill coach, founder of 9010 Sports, bobsled team. Like, Michael embodies it all and the essence of the athletic mindset and transformation. And I am super excited. And what I learned today, Michael, you have acting on your belt here, from We Are Marshall and the Game Plan and the host of the Discovery Travel Channel, and now NFL alum. Like, the list goes on. I can't list it all. What have I not talked about, and what have we missed?
It's my parents always said you can do anything that you want to do, and we'll still love you the same. So I would say, so I can go out, fail miserably, and I can still come back home. And it was like, yeah. So that just allowed me to not be afraid to try, to make a wants list, make a have to do list in order to get to your wants. And everything that I wanted to do, I went out there and tried it, and it's easier than you think. What I mean by that is, if it's there, the hardest part is you making the decision to go and go do it.
Oh,
so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you. Obviously, we talked a couple weeks ago, and there are so many things that I want to hit on, talking about your Jamaican bobsled experience, talking about your NFL experience, talking about your education, the education that you're sharing with others now. But let's start, Michael. We're trying, obviously, on this podcast to help give perspectives from high achievers, which obviously that's why you're here. But you have the uncanny ability to bring this right back to child development and where we need to begin to start our journey to be Michael Blair. Where would you, I'm going to let you start with your experience and what you've learned in training and educating youth to help them be their best. I'm going to just leave that open and let you take it to start.
And that's a whole lot, right? That's
We've
a
been
whole
talking
lot.
about that for 2 weeks.
I know, right? Okay, so child development is the vocation to the trade of being an adult. Mm. And one of the things that I try to do with the athletes is to stay connected. And to stay connected is to do less telling them what to do and more listening to what they want to do. Right. And so I'm always reflecting on my journey and seeing where the synergy is, or seeing where it aligns with whoever I'm talking to, and then tell them my experience. Right. And I feel like the more experience that we have, or the more journeys that we go on in talking to other people, then we could be able to tie the roads together and then lead them in the direction that they need to go into. But more of that is more listening than anything else, right?
Right.
So we know that. Right. So development is the four. You have four domains: physical, intellectual, social, and emotional. And when you look at it from that aspect, then it doesn't become as daunting or as big as we thought it is. We all know that there's something that we all have in common, that we all have to go through but we don't know what those things are. And it's those four things: physical, intellectual, social, and emotional. And so we know that physical is your maturation physically. You look older than you are because you are more developed, dot, 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 things of that nature. And then you have maturity, which is the brain, right? That is the intellectual. Um, how do you learn what you learn? What do you do with the things that you have when you learn it? And then the social, of course, means relationship, who you're talking to, what kind of communication that you're learning. And then emotion is your mood, right? So what is your state of mind at that time that you're learning it, and even when you're beyond what you have just learned. So it's a constant reflection. I feel that you have to continue to look back at those crossroads when you talk to people, when you've experienced it yourself in your journey, and then how can you help that to lead other people?
It's interesting that you go right to sharing and listening. And in some ways, and maybe this is probably just one view of our sport culture right now, but kids are so isolated in their training anymore. If you think about it, everybody's got their own coach and they've got their own time, and they do less and less with teams in practice situations, mainly just competition, and more individually. That this whole idea of being in, like, getting information about other people's journeys almost seems like it's sort of come to a bottleneck where we're sort of maybe not getting that as much. What are your thoughts on that? Is that real, or is that just something that I thought of in my head as you talked about we need to hear other people's story? What do you
Yeah, we
think?
have to. One of the hardest things is to train by yourself. It's the hardest. And when you become a pro athlete, you're always training by yourself because the people around you are not at your level of training. So you move away from that. But then what happens? Iron sharpens iron. You go back to training camp, you go back to practice, and then everybody levels goes to a championship level. Why? Because you're around like-minded people. You're all doing the same thing. But then when you isolate yourself and say, okay, I'm only going to train with this person, you will always stop yourself before you see greatness. And greatness is like relative to yourself. It's not comparative to someone else, right? It's always like, okay, can I beat my personal best the last time? Can I run harder than I did the last time? Can I jump farther than I did last time? Can I intellectually process this information quicker, faster? Those type of things. But when you by yourself, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. You
And
can, but
it-
optimize. Yeah.
so many of us look and compare our journeys, and I even see it in the business world now. Like, well, I'm not where this person is, or I have not developed. And we don't look. I love that perspective because it's like, can I do better than my last? We talked to Katie Scott last night, and she's like, next action. Like, it's focusing on one thing at a time in my own journey to try to not push me against somebody else, but how do we propel everyone forward? And if we focus on our journey in that lens, I think it puts a whole different perspective. Now,
Ab-
I think I read, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, as I looked into like the 90-10 sports stuff, you really have a philosophy on athletics being 90% mental, 10% physical. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct. 90% mental, 10% physical, right? You train
Tell me about
athletes, right? So you train athletes through cerebral development. Um, every uh, sport that you play has an academic component to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, what do we focus on first? The physical component.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get upset with the athlete because they don't know as much as you know,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh yeah, you can jump fast, you can jump far, but how come you don't understand this? That's because you didn't take the time to do the 90, which is the mental component first.
Yeah.
Uh, when I coach football, the first 3 days in high school, you have to wear no helmets, or excuse me, helmets only for the first 3 days. So the first 3 days, there is no ball out there. We have to understand the language that we are working with, the country that we're in, which is America,
Mm.
and what is the language that we speak in this country? What is the culture and the mannerisms that you have to be in this country? And it's the same thing for every sport. If you do softball, it's the same thing. No ball. Let's talk about how we're going to speak to each other. So, because it's all about communication, let's talk about what this body language is. Let's talk about what the pre-snap body language is. Let's talk about what pre-pitch body language is. Like, those are the things, because when you talk to other coaches, what are we talking about? We're not talking about the physical. When you talk to other coaches, we are 100% IQ mental. When this situation happened, what do you do in that situation? It's all situations. But then we get these athletes and we want them to execute physically and then automatically know the situations when they have no experience in it.
Right.
So that's where 90% mental came from. Focus on that first, and the rest will come. They're physically there. They're able to do that. Depending on the age, of course, you got those physical milestones that you have to go through. But intellectually, they're there and they want to learn that.
And that's the part that my son is long jumping. And I said, were you outside in the sand? And he said, no. And I said, well, did you have a board? Did they talk about the board and, where you have to hit off the board to jump? I'm like, my dad was track coach, but I don't know anything about it. I do know you have to hit a board because I work with some long jumpers on the mental side of the game. But he said, no. And I said, well, how can you know how to long jump if you don't understand the concept of the board, right? And what the board means. But when we talked individually a couple weeks back, you talked about hearing and connecting things to your prior experience. Tell us about how you work through that type of instruction, right? So you mentioned, I think, something about, connecting movement and learning to prior experience. What's that look like?
Prior experience, I've long jumped before. Wasn't that good. I was more of a triple jumper. And I was a bigger kid, right? So having, again, the prior experience is having conversations with other coaches who have long jumped before. Having experience of, we're in a world where technology is at our fingers. You can listen to a specialist coach talk about long jump, triple jump, and all those things, and be able to, okay, so here's the experience connection. When you're learning at a higher level, you use the visual and you watch the film.
Mm-hmm.
You have more experience, you watch the film, you learn it, and then you turn around and go tell the athlete, right? The experience, the appropriate thing to do is sit with the athlete and watch the film with them as well.
Yeah.
Now they understand what sources that you're getting information from. That's number one, because we got to teach them to be able to do research. So in order to do research, they got to check out the sources. Two, because you have the experience already, you understand what the coaches on film is talking about, but the kid might understand. So you stop the film and say, okay, this is what that means. Do you understand that? Yes. Okay, now you're moving together intellectually. So when you go to the track or anything that you're doing, you go to that. In this case, we're talking about track. You go to the track, and now you have a common reference point that you can talk about. Mm-hmm. That's experience. That's bringing experience and then talking through experience.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways that it happens.
It's so funny you say that, because last night was my son's first baseball practice, and I'm helping coach the team. And I had, a bunch of drills, all lined up to do. And, I've done this before. I've coached a couple practices with bats and balls in my time. And I am going to send, it's so funny you say, because I have a list of videos to send to parents to have them watch with their sons so that they can understand what I mean by heel up, heel down when the balls are going in their glove, because they don't get it. They don't understand your left foot has to be forward. They don't understand the nuances of it, even at 13 and 14, that really make the difference in, but if they see it, right? Me doing it is different. It's different. But if they see somebody their age doing it, or they can watch a video over and over at their own speed, then there's no doubt that they're going to pick it up more quickly. And if I was smart, I would have sent them before practice, right?
Yeah. No, that's huge too, because it's mandatory when I train kids. It's mandatory, or parents would be. It's mandatory that that the parents are there. Mandatory. You are. If I have your child for 3 days, it's mandatory that you're there 2 days. If I have them for 4 days, it's mandatory that you're there for 2 days. The reason being is because when I'm speaking to your child and the language that we're speaking, you're gonna mess it up.
Yeah.
There, you're gonna start saying things that you shouldn't be saying.
Uh-huh.
Mm-mm.
Uh-huh.
So and sit, come and audit the class, come and listen to the language. So then that way when I speak to them and then the child comes to you, you're not gonna say, oh, you ran well. No, you're gonna say, how'd you feel at the start? I noticed that you did in baseball. I noticed that you did not reach for the ball. You let the ball get inside you. You got blinders. I noticed you didn't put the heel down first. Like now you're speaking intellectually of the language that they speak, as opposed to why don't you catch the ball? Why don't
Yeah.
you do this? Right? You can't, as a parent, you cannot speak like a parent if you're going to start questioning their ability and what they're doing, right? So yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
It is
Yeah.
good. I love it. Now, okay, from your perspective, in what you see in young athletes today, what do you think some of the most lacking skills are today in young athletes? And how does that impact their development?
Lacking skills. Which skills? Physically, intellectually,
Any.
social. Okay.
Well, obviously physical depends on the sport, so that varies across the board. But any beyond that, like because this game is much more than the physical demands. You've already determined that.
Intellect. Intellect. Processing the information that is put in front of you. And then what do you do with that information?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the when you play a sport, you have to play it from a chess perspective, not a checkers perspective, right? But like I said, every situation becomes different. Do I turn man on first? What am I supposed to do? Are you processing that before the ball is being thrown, or are you waiting for the ball to be hit before you say, okay, I'm a do a force out, I'm gonna throw it to first? So that's that intellect. Um, then of course it's the physical, right? If the ball, it goes back to intellect. The ball is hit down the line. Where are you standing in relationship to the ball and it's traveling? And then what angle are you going to take? Yeah, you physically have to get there, but intellectually you have to know. You have to process that already in your head. Now I'm gonna take a 45-degree step. I'm gonna take I'm gonna take a 180-degree step. Like you have to know these things in order to get there. So I would say it'd be intellect. Because we always ask the question, why'd you do that? They're not gonna say because my arms made me move this way. No, it's just be like, well, I thought. Some of them don't even think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you cannot draw information from nothing. So I always say, shame on me because I didn't tell you. I didn't explain to you. I didn't give you that resource for you to say, I can take this path.
Yeah.
Or I can, right? You have some athletes who are intellect and they're savvy. That's what I like to call it, savvy, right? They're real savvy. They can do everything. We always say, oh, they got the it factor.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the it factor because they are physically capable, or they got that to put themselves in position to make plays?
That's right.
Yeah. Now socially, I don't know one sport where you don't talk. We have to communicate with each other, right? So that's a thing too. And then emotionally, your mood. You can't turn
Mm.
it on and off. Like, okay, listen, I coach girls track and I realized that emotions are higher than physical. Emotions. It's like you need I told these girls, I was like, you're not girls, you are athletes. So I started, you don't do you do this? And that was my first year of coaching girls. That was the worst year. That was all the time. That was the worst year. So now I reflected and I was like, all right, cool, no problem, no problem. The second year is the best year ever. I got the most out of. You know why? Because I just listened to them. Girls want to talk. They want to talk during practice. No, what happened today? And then they get it out their system and they be like, all right, let's go run now. Right? So emotionally, and it's different. It's different for every athlete. But
Right.
yeah, kind of long-winded, but
our strength coach and who Courtney knows well, he was my guy at Cleveland State and then worked with us at Akron when I was there too. Still one of my dear friends. He says that the number one rule for peak performance is availability, and he means physically being available. But I add on to that from the mental side is that you have to be emotionally and mentally available as well. And that's basically what you're saying is if you're bottled up, your physical skills don't matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
How about present?
Yes.
Is being available and present the same thing?
From mentally, yes. From his perspective, it means you need to be healthy, physically healthy. From my perspective, it means exactly presence. Exactly. Yes.
Like when I mean like in the moment.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Well, just that. You know what I mean? I coach chess, right? And I'm the head coach for the chess team out here. And
You do it all.
and so when you playing, I tell the kids you don't have to rush to make that next move.
Right.
Stay in the moment, and that time will seem like it stands still. But the person that you're playing against, they feel like it's eternity. It's like, why aren't you moving? Right?
Yeah.
So time becomes relevant. And what I mean by that is, if I ask you to go into a restaurant and wait for 15 seconds before you get your food, you'll be good to go. But then if I ask you to hold your breath for 15 seconds, you'll be good to go. Stress changes a little bit. But then if I push you under the water for 15 seconds, it's a different stress. But the time, the time stayed the same. The situation is different every time, right? So you playing sport, what does 6 o'clock mean to you? It's all relative. It all depends on what did you do last night to not be prepared for this, to be in the moment of 6 o'clock.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, present, availability, you got to be available to be present.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if that came across, but
No, it all goes back to that whole thing that you said, that when you're thinking of the girls and their emotion came before their physical ability in that way is that you have to manage this before this can shine. Right?
Yes.
Because that emotion overtakes their ability to use their prefrontal cortex to think. Right? So yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. So when we talked before, you had the experience after your football career to go into bobsledding, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me that as a football player, you rarely felt yourself being pulled with negative self-talk or a full overthinking, right?
Right.
That allowed you to stay present and be able to use your skill. Because in football, like at the level that you played football, I can't even imagine how fast it is, right? And you don't have time to be second guessing what you're doing. You just have to trust your eyes and go because your body knows what to do, right?
Right.
But when you got into bobsled, you said that you felt like that was the first time in your life, and you were, you're retired football player at the time, that you started to think more. Tell us about that and how that affected your progress. And then maybe we could take the second question to say, how did you manage it so that young people can can learn from your journey in this?
Right. Man, bobsled, that was so I'm 50 now. I was 41. I turned 42 in November, so that would make me 42. And when I was asked to do it, I never thought about competition. Somebody asked me to do something. If I feel good, I'm gonna do it, right? Okay. Thinking about competition. All right. So now I have to train. I have to get myself ready because I was 230 pounds. I was like, all right, I got to get down to 230. This is going to be crazy. So the competition became self competition. I've been there, no problem. Up and down with the weight. Okay, I'm overweight now. I'm underweight. I made it. I know what to do. Dot, dot, dot. That's not a problem. Um, again, that radio station doesn't come on, just like you say, right?
Yeah.
The Downton radio station doesn't come on. Okay, so now I'm out there training. I'm seeing gains. I'm feeling good about myself. No problem. Then I went out to the first day of practice, and we all talking to each other, and all I hear is 18, 22, 25. I was like, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. I remember when I was that age, I was unstoppable. And then I started to doubt myself, like, I'm 42. Can I keep up with these cats? And and even when I was trying to shake myself from it, like, no, don't worry about that. You're good. You're good. No, I was not good. I was not good. Too much stuff was going on. I was already like, I don't even know the height, 20,000 feet in the air, which is, I don't know the height. I'm just making stuff up. But we're in the mountains. That's all I know, which is true, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're and all that stuff. And I just kept, they were strong, they were big. And I just kept saying, man, I don't know if I don't know if I could do this. And every time I'd get on the sled, like the first time I hit the sled, and then we went down, it took us like 52 seconds to go a mile, right? Like we was cooking, right? So it's like 20 turns. We in Whistler, Canada,
Yeah.
on the Olympic, the fastest track in the world. The height from the push deck to the first turn is like a story and a half, to almost 2 stories, where you just come down like that. So we're cooking at 50, 60 miles an hour, things of that nature. And we get done, and I'm like breathing heavily, like, oh my God, what in the world did I just go through? I got snot nose because it's cold. I mean, it was crazy. I was like, man, I wipe my nose, I get through. We turn the sled over. Even that's an experience too, because when you get done, you got to turn the sled on the bumpers on the side, and then you pull the sled off the track. Because if you don't, there's another bobsled that's coming down, and you got to get off the track before it finishes.
Yeah.
So over, we put it in its in the wooden track. So the runners, some people call them blades. Those are the people. Don't call the runners blades. Okay, if you talk to a bobsledder,
Okay.
those are runners.
Noted.
Cool. We put the runners down. We put it on the truck, and then we go back to the top. And I'm sitting there the whole time, and I was like, man, eh, I don't know if I'm young enough to do this sport. That's the whole thing I was thinking. And then, but here's the crazy thing. After the second run, I was like, I'm about to smoke everybody. It only took me one run to start saying, stop thinking like that. Because I knew if I continued to think like that, I was not going to survive in this sport.
Yeah.
I check this out. I said to myself, why did you play football? And it's a dangerous sport. I was like, because I liked it. So you know what I had to do? I had to start liking bobsled.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, yeah, you liked it, but you need more than that. And I was like, I know. And this is me talking to myself in my head, right? I was like, I know. I need to love this thing. I need to die for this thing. Because in football, if I died, I was okay. I knew that if I step on the field, I'm one play away from dying. Because right, it's a physical sport, right? So it's a head-on car collision at 40 miles an hour, right? So I knew that if I died on this football field, I'm quite all right. I was doing something that I love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
To get to that before I knew I was ready to go back on the ice. we had practice every day. So that I had to find the love real fast and in a hurry. So yeah, once I got to that, then my next step was, all right, I need to change the station in my head. That's number two. And then I need to keep it there because just because you change the station don't mean that it won't go back, right? So
Right. Yeah,
then
the dial moves real quick. Yeah.
and then I was like, all right, I need to get past these young bucks. I need to get past them being 19, 20, 21, 22. And then what I started to do was listen. I started to listen. Who was I listening to? I was listening to them because every time I hit the sled and then I'll come back, the conversations would be, how old are you? I'll be at 42. It's like, man, I can't believe that you're 42. Boom, confidence level keep going up. Every time that the other person couldn't believe it. So then I realized that other people are always watching you. That's number one. Yeah. And they are always saying that they wish they had what you have. The same way that you look at somebody and say, I wish that I had what you have in order to be the best of what it is that you need to be, right? And so once I realized that, then it settled me down, right? I always say, don't let nobody know how deep your ocean is. They stand on the beach. They're afraid to go in the water. Some people go in there and they test the water, but they won't go in there, even if they can swim. Now, if they can swim, that's their skill set. They're confident. They're gonna go as far as their ability to allow them. But a lot of people don't have that ability. So what do? They stay on the shore. They put their toe in the water, but they never go deep because they don't know what's in the water. And that's how you have to be as an athlete. You show people your grandioso, but they don't know what's inside that grandioso unless what? They have the skill set to do the research, find out who you are, and then they have comfortable skill set in themselves that they're not afraid themselves. And then you applaud them. And then you look at them and see what they're doing and then try to do what they do.
Yeah. So interesting, right, Courtney? You hear him talk about listening, and that's what. So we talked to Katie Scott in our last episode, and she is 17 years old, playing for the KC Current in the women's professional soccer league, and she was talking about listening and just soaking everything up. And you're talking about listening and using what you're hearing as confidence building, right? And I love what you said. I do an exercise with young athletes, and I say, write down the qualities that you admire in others, right? And then we go around and they say, I admire people who are. And then I have the next group go through same things, the same list, and they have to call out, oh no, I am strong when I am. So they take those same qualities because they admire things that they want to be, that they know that they are enough, but maybe not to the degree that they want. But then they have to say, like, I admire people who have patience. And then I would then turn and say, I am powerful when I have patience. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, it is something that people are watching, and we can learn a lot from, because usually we look for things that we want to be. Right. Those guys are, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm old. Those guys are thinking, I'm riding this sled with an NFL guy.
Yes. Yes.
Right. That's what they're thinking. They're thinking, gosh, I would love to be a professional football player. And you're thinking, I don't know if I can do this because I'm 42.
Exactly.
And they're also probably thinking, he's going to kick my butt. Like, they're like, think about that process. They're like, he's going to kick my butt and he's twice my age. Like, holy cow. Like, the other side of that lens is so amazing. I would have loved to hear what they were thinking.
Yes, right.
Right. But we don't know because we're so stuck in our own head until we start to listen, like you said.
Exactly.
Yep.
Listen. That's huge.
Absolutely.
Something about what you just said there, but I can't remember. Okay. It'll come back.
Julie just talked about qualities, and we like to hear this. Like, what are the standout qualities that the most successful athletes that you've worked with, or yourself, or you've seen in the NFL? What are the most successful qualities that they have from those top tier athletes?
Resilience.
Okay.
That for a fact. Competitive.
Okay.
um, Resilience, competitive. And they're a winner. They're a
Elaborate
winner.
on that.
Okay. I woke up this morning, 1-0. I brushed my teeth, 2-0. I put my clothes on without somebody helping me, 3-0. Made my breakfast, I'm 4-0. The day didn't even start yet, and I'm 10-0 before I walk out the door. I'm a winner.
Yeah.
Period.
But that's
And
mindset.
yes,
Julie and I have had this discussion because, oh, God bless my child. He's 11. And I herd cats at 9 and 10 years old. They don't all have that competitive streak. It's still early. How do you teach that? It's not. I ask my parents all the time. I'm like, when did I become competitive? Because I literally will say I'll beat anybody at Tiddlywinks any day of the week, whatever it is. I am there. But my mom's like, you didn't have that. You didn't have that in the beginning. I think I had it when Julie was recruiting me, but I didn't have it at 13 or 14. Like, I questioned that. How do you foster that? How do you help? If you're a parent, how do you coach that? How do you
or when do you see it show up?
when do you see it show up? Inquiring minds would love to know.
right. So when I was listening to y'all podcast, I heard y'all say that, and I was sitting in the car like, yes, it's the greatest question in the world, right? But guess what? It's called a milestone.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have control over our milestone. Yes, sorry to tell you that. Just like the same thing, you know how when do babies start talking? When do babies start crawling? When do babies start, right? They we each have 4 domains. Yeah.
Mhm.
Each domain have milestones. At a 2-year-old, they're doing this. At a 3-year-old, they're doing that. It's a milestone. Now, guess what? Everybody has a start and an end point for that milestone, but everybody goes through it at different speeds.
Mm-hmm.
So being confident. Um, Man, I got 2 guys that we need to all 5 of us need to be on this podcast next time, right? Big Maurice and Maurice Jefferson, and we had a conversation about being contact shy.
Mm-hmm.
What is contact shy? You have an athlete that in football, you need to not be contact shy. You have to embrace contact to run into people and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But not every kid likes that. But what is that? Is that uh, they need to have the experience, and the experience needs to be good. From that experience being good, you get confidence. From that confidence, then you get what you're asking for. Then you get the competitiveness, right? Do you guys play golf?
Oh no.
Not well. I can hit the ball far, but actually, I'm the best golfer you've ever met, Michael. I mean, that's the mental side of it.
Exactly, right? But hold on. 20 shots, 20 shots, and they're all left and right, and you're digging up the earth with the groundhogs, but you can hit that one shot that goes straight, and you're like, that's what you're fighting for. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And then you
Right.
are setting goals. Okay, instead of 20 balls being lost in the pond, I'm going to try for 10 balls this course. I'm going to try for 5 this course, right? So the more balls that you are holding on to, the more straight shots you get through the experiences, then you get the confidence, and then you get what you're asking for, right? Which is that
And
competitive.
right. Right. And what you're saying is so important there. I think people think they have to be confident before they embark. But
Mm,
you know, if you wait to be confident, you're never going to start.
right, correct. Yeah. You can't say, oh, I need to check out confident first before I can start playing. No, you need to get experiences, and then those experiences done correctly gives you confidence. Then you need your love languages. Your love languages, right? Words of affirmation.
Mhm.
All athletes are words of affirmation. Because what? We're constantly being evaluated, constantly being told if we're doing it right, constantly being told if we're doing it wrong. And then that's where your confidence comes. You ever sit in at the airport and watch people walk by?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
You pick out the athletes,
Hmm.
you pick out the pro athletes.
Usually because of their size.
And their confidence.
True. Hmm.
They've been on planes forever. Walking through the airport is like walking to your car.
Yeah.
So the confidence walk through the airport is completely different than somebody who's never been on a plane before.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So it's a milestone thing. Just let it happen. Give them more experiences of good, and they'll get the confidence. And then competitive will show up.
Love it.
What do you think about this? Sometimes I throw this out and I ask people, what's more important, feeling confident or acting competitive?
Acting competitive.
No, I should say being competitive, like throwing yourself out there, just being doggedly competitive. Is that more important to performance than feeling confident is?
Yeah.
I think so too, because confidence comes and goes, right? But you can always be competitive no matter how you feel.
But if you are always competitive, because I'm thinking about myself in high school,
Mm-hmm.
made the basketball team. I was not good. So how did I make the basketball team? Because I was always competitive.
Uh-huh.
I was there. And the coach was like, man, you because you play defense so well, I need this to be present so other kids can see what that is to play defense well.
Right.
But I couldn't shoot. I couldn't do anything. So I didn't my confidence level to shoot was not there, but my dog attitude to play was there.
Yeah. Right.
So
I think that's something that I think we elusively at times chase confidence, but we know that like just like any other emotion in some ways, it comes and goes. It comes and it ebbs and flows. But you could play defense any day, no, unless you were puking. You could
right,
play defense any day,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Even if you didn't believe that you could shoot the ball, you knew you could stop somebody because that's effort based, choice based.
right,
It's
right.
a choice.
Effort
Yeah.
has no side, it's unbiased. Is it your want? Is it your want? Is competitiveness a want? Is confidence a want? No, but you asked the question about competitive. How do you know? Da, da, da. Do you want to be competitive?
Right.
That is the question. Is it a want? I want to do this. Okay, if you want to do it, here are the list of things, the checklist of things that you need to do in order to appear to be competitive, right?
This is what it looks like, right? I heard a
Yeah.
guy say that, that when people say, boy, you look confident today, what they're really saying is, because they don't know how you feel, they're really saying you look competent today,
Mm,
right? You
mm,
are showing competent behaviors.
sure.
We don't know
Yeah,
how somebody feels, but when you look confident, it's because you're competent,
correct. Correct.
right? Yeah.
Like,
I thought that was an interesting way to look at it.
because you're present,
Yes.
you're in the moment,
All right
and
back to that.
you're not concerned about the after shocks. You're not concerned about how people are perceiving what you are doing. You're not concerned. Like no, like you're in it. You're in the moment.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah,
And you're trusting your training to take the lead.
yeah, absolutely right. Like at some point you need to do that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
point the automatic movement of you comes into play, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that can be in line with. I was watching this on IG. This little leaguer. He's playing short. He's playing short. He comes across the ball, is hit down the middle of the field. He comes across, he slides, picks it up, reverse, and dime to first base, like this little leaguer. So I was like, man, that's not the first time he's done that.
Right.
He's done that in his backyard.
Or in his head, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, hey, if it even comes close, this is how I'm gonna play this ball. And he does it. Head turns first. Like a lot of athletes don't know that you got to turn your head first in order for your body to go. Head, he spins around 360, head turns first, boom, puts a dime on that thing. Is that confidence? Yeah. That's that 90-10. He did it 100 times in his head before he even physically needs to do it, which gave him experience, which led him to confidence.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's excellent.
I have a question.
Okay.
As we look at future in developing athletes, so whether it's the future of sports, athletic development, what changes do you hope to see in how we prepare young athletes mentally for both competition and life beyond sports? Because let's face it, sports is amazing. Sports prepare us for a lot of things, but there also is that next step. So think about that in the terms of what changes do you hope to see or continue to see? Maybe you've already seen something that is really stellar and you want to like call out.
I hope to see coaches become more developed. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? And what I see your face, and this is what I mean, right? So a month ago, I went to an NCAA NFL coaching academy. It was 46 coaches in there, and we were all about the development of self. I cannot continue to not develop myself and then pass that non-developed self to another athlete or even another coach. I have to professionally develop myself. What does that mean? Sit down and talk to two great people like yourselves, where we're just chopping it up, where we soundboarding things off, where we disagree, where we agree, where we pull each other up from disagreeing. Like, okay, now I understand what you're saying because we've used our intellectual skills, we've used words that it may mean different, right? What are we doing? Working on communication right now. We got too many coaches who don't know how to communicate with each other, who don't know how to communicate with kids, who think that they're doing it the right way, and they're not. I've just the other day I was around baseball and I seen the coach kind of just go off on the kid, and I'm like, he doesn't even know why. You're telling him to catch the ball, but you're not telling him, hey, you need your feet to move with you. Even when you say that, you can't say you need your feet to move with you. They're like, what do you mean to move with you? Okay,
Right.
you have to, man. My high school track coach, Coach Hopper, I said, Coach, how do you coach? He says, well, I can tell you to go over there and pick that chair up. That's what some coaches do. But the best coaches tells you, okay, you need to turn right, take 15 steps to that chair. You need to bend at the knees, stretch out your arms. And then I was like, aha, I get it. We had too many coaches saying just do, but they're not taking the time out to tell you how to do. They're not giving you their instructions. They just like, so long-winded answer, but I think we need to develop more coaches. They need to have access to more, uh, just like how college coaches and pro coaches, we have access to the masters.
Yeah.
We need to have these dads who become and moms who become little league coaches. We need to have them to have access to these pros, which is a program that I have.
Well, we will put it in the show notes.
Julie and I
what
talk about this all the time. Like Julie and I talk about coaching. She coaches whatever for the fact of the baseball. I coach softball, but there's so many parents that become coaches after they've had kids. And Julie and I talked about this. I was a coach for a decade before my kids ever came around. And I look in my lens in which I look at coaching is completely different than the flip side of that coin. and
Right.
it's about a skill, and it's about a drill that is progressive and foundational to get them where I need them to go, versus, come on, I'm going to yell at you. You're going to learn one position. It's going to, and they try with repetition, but the foundational blocks are missing. So I love that you said that.
Yeah. One time I had to go coach, well, two stories. One, I had to go coach quarterbacks. I didn't play quarterback. I don't know nothing about it. So I called up one of my friends and said, "Hey, he's a quarterback." I was like, "I'm going to come to you once a week. I am not your friend. I am a guy that wants to play quarterback at the highest level. You need to school me up." So I said, "Okay." So I got the ball. I did drops, carriage, how you hold the ball, how you separate, all that stuff. And it was the best thing ever that I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to humble myself. I had to
Mm-hmm.
humble myself and go seek a resource, seek advice to and be, just like you said, present in that. Like, you have to become that. I didn't have no prior experience with that, so I had to become that. The second story is when I was with the Packers. When you play special teams, you have to play all positions in 5 seconds, right? So on kickoff, you have to turn and run like a corner. You have to turn and run like a receiver. You have to swivel your hips and start to backpedal like a DB. You have to come forward like a linebacker. It's like all of these positions you have to be just one set. And so one day after practice, I was like, "Hey, Bernardo, what's up? Teach me how to do this. Hey, Keith, can you teach me how to come off the edge?" In one practice, I learned all the defensive positions and how they're supposed to do it. And then every day I practice on my own in order to be the best special teams player. So gaining the experience, just like you said, which puts you in the confidence. You get a lot of parents who they're not going to gain the experience because what? They don't have the time. They have the time, but they don't want to put time in. You know, but we have to help them. We have to get them battle credited before it's time for them to go into the battle. The more information that you have and how you give this information is important. And if this coach has more, we all know that coach are salespeople. We know that they are great
Mm-hmm.
orators. We know that they like. What's your delivery? How
Mm-hmm.
do you convince? How do you change the mind? What um, analogy can you use to preach the gospel? Right? Like
Right.
in this thing, like what can you? Because what affects you may be completely different than what affects you.
Yeah.
What I say, you may catch it, but you may not catch it. So the next day, I have to say the same thing, but it has to be completely different for you, right?
Right.
So
That's hard. That's hard.
yeah, right. And
Yeah.
it's not all in a group setting.
Right.
It's time you see the athlete do something, you call them over, and you can tell them one thing, and they go over there and they on cloud nine.
Yeah.
Just hey, I watched you today. You look like you're catching on. I see big things out of you. I
Yeah.
see big things. That athlete might turn into the best thing, an all-star that season. You can see the next athlete be like, "Hey, you better than that." That's the same thing.
Yeah.
But this one, what you know what you're talking about. Oh yeah, I am better than that. That's all they need. And then they
Yeah.
go out there to an all-star.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, it's the coach, but again, is how many coaches do you know go to another school and be a fly on the wall? Don't say nothing. Just go to a school and be a guest
Yeah.
and see how other coaches do it, how they say other things. I used to listen to, well, I still do. You listen to all these coaches, Deion Sanders when they talk, Nick Saban when he talk, the coach from LSU, like whatever sport your sport is, and you listen to these coaches how they
Mm-hmm.
say things, and then you say, okay, now I know how to say it. Now I know how to get that message across.
Mm-hmm.
But our coaches doing that? You know what I mean?
No.
Like they're not. I don't think
And
they're
there's no
doing it.
excuse anymore. You have programs like that. There's programs out there. There's
Yeah.
honestly, heck, I don't know about y'all, but my TikTok feed is even like baseball, softball drills. And I'm like, oh, I could tweak mine this way. Like
Yeah.
it is like
Mhm.
constant, it is immediate gratification for anybody anymore, even for coaching. If you want it and you want to help your teams, it's out there.
It's out there.
And and I understand, and here we are. I mean, this has been our lives, right? I mean, we understand the language of everything. We don't think anything outside of training in some ways, and whatever kind of training it is, and that's not everyone. And I know that a lot of people, obviously, these are all volunteers, and there are so many great coaches out there. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think that what you're saying about coaches and communication, and like it's the truth, because I talk to Courtney very differently than I talk to Grace, who was the other pitcher, and JJ, who was the other pitcher that played at the same time, right? Because they were different human beings, right? They're different human beings, and I think that's something that that's how good bosses do the same thing. It's leadership. It's leadership. And coaches aren't, I don't know that coaches, when they volunteer, necessarily look at themselves in that leadership perspective. Yes, in some ways, but not really from they probably lead in their job.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Right. But I don't know if they look at it the same way, because coaching is just guidance.
Yeah.
It's leadership.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
It is. But is everybody a good leader? Just
No.
because you wear that title.
No.
Right.
And just because you played the sport doesn't mean you're a good coach either. Just because you know the game, that's the other piece.
Yeah, it's true.
Gave you the poetic snap. There's just some people that you can just sit and listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You just sit and yes, that the frequency is like right there talking to you. Marty Schottenheimer, Kansas City Chiefs, God rest his soul. That man can talk, and I would run through a building for that man. It's just practice, and he can just get you ready for practice. Like that's what I'm talking about. Your delivery, and all right.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something when we talked earlier. You said that kids need to understand that coaches are on your side, right? You said exactly. So we're not their enemy, and guidance is necessary for growth. Tell me tell me more about that.
Coaches are on the kids' side because we all want to win, right? And so if I'm against you, I'm sabotaging myself, right? So it's like it's like a chair. It's like a chair. Okay. All right. Let me screw these legs in this chair, but I'm not gonna screw them in all the way because I got to sit down on this chair. But I'm gonna make sure that the nuts are loose. Who's gonna do that?
Yeah.
Right. Right. So when we're coaching you up, we all in this thing together. Like I remember I saw a kid ask a coach what time was it, and the coach went off. I was like, why are you going off? You just tell the kid the time. Why he's supposed to be thinking about this and that? No, no. You tell him the time. Guess what you have done? He's become an alliance. He's gonna come to you all the time. So next time you go to talk to him, you have a connection. He came to you for a time, and you told him that it was 2:30, and then you make a joke. What? You got a hot date? Right? Nah, coach. I just want to know what time it is. Cool, no problem. Now the next time you go and talk to him, guess what he's gonna do? He's gonna talk to you. He's gonna open up because it's not really about him asking the time. It's 100% about him being vulnerable enough to come to you because of something that he needed. You need him. So you got to work together. Here, you want to see the schedule? We're practicing this time. So that those are the kind of things, right? Like we're on the same team. We're wearing the same colors. When you get that team where there's the division, oh Lord, have mercy. It's a wrap. Coaches against players, players against coaches, coaches against coaches. Everybody got their own little pockets of things. Nah, you're all on the same team. So athletes, Coaches need you. You need them. So let's just work together. We move forward, and we're not against you. We with you. Because if you look good, we look good. It's
Right.
your team.
Right. That's exactly right. That's what I said. That's what he's telling because I brought, we brought you here to make us look good.
Yeah.
Right.
It is your team, yours. I don't like if there's a problem with the team, we can't fix that.
Right.
Suggestion, but it's your responsibility as the player to go and speak to the other players. It's your team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to keep talking all night, but we're at an hour and 10 minutes already.
Okay.
Michael, I think probably we could do like a whole series with you and have like 20 conversations. I love this. I thought this was amazing. And just to have a different perspective and all of the success that you've had from all of the things that we talked about. Thank you so much for your insights. Julie, do you have anything to add?
The one thing that we did not mention is that Michael Blair is a recipient of the Lifetime Community Service Award from President Biden.
Yes.
And that right there says volumes about how you get to the top. You do it with other people and bringing other people alongside of you. Right.
100%.
And you have changed the lives of so many people. And, we didn't even get to talk about the school, and maybe we can get you back on and talk about the impact that you're having there. But, everything you've done is just absolutely impressive. The fact that you didn't have a school until April, and here, look what you've done from there. And I mean, you're like, I thought Ball State, you went from Ball State to the heights of heights. Right?
Yeah.
Not that Ball State is any sham. I'm not saying that, but how wherever you start isn't where you end.
Right.
It didn't end on that day that your ACT didn't go the way you wanted it to. That was the beginning.
It was the beginning. And my sister, she said to me, she said, you just don't stop. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, you got cut from one team and then you found another team and then you found another. And I was like, yeah. So that in my head stuck with me for my whole life, and it's resilience. And you don't have to. Evolution don't stop. The sun don't stop. Like it does not stop. It only stops because you stop, or if you're around. I told my dad about this. I was like, Dad, look at this shoe. I made this shoe. Had my roommate draw it up, and he says, the only thing that's gonna stop you from making that shoe. I was like, no. He's like, you. So the moment that you say you don't want to do it no more, it's gonna stop. And then that stuck with me, and I was like, okay, all right. So it doesn't matter what I do. If I want to open up a school, it's easy. You just got to go find the resources. And go open up the school, and I wanted athletes to be helped in transition, going from when the COVID hit, the portal opened, and these high school athletes are getting dropped down further and further down the chain because it's the portal recruiting, JUCO recruiting, academy recruiting, then high school recruiting. So now it's when high schools are getting looked at. Matter of fact, there's some colleges out there who only take like 2 or 3 high school kids to give them scholarships. Everybody else, you have to when you fit in. So scholarships are not as plentiful, 12, 15, like how it was back in the day with me. So I said, okay, great. How can we help? That's the question that keeps the resilience going, because it's not about you, right? It's about the person that's in front of you. So that's my philosophy. And if you keep it that way and keep yourself out of it, you're in the center of this circle. But if you always ask, well, how can I help? Then that help is going to find you, and which keeps you going, because eventually you'll find something that'll keep you going. There's a lot of things to do out there. So
there are.
Except we have to talk about the schools, 90-10 Sports and Vocational Academy, where athletes come to us. They'll take a trade, and then they'll play the sport that they want to play. And the first sport we're doing is American football. We're going to play a 9-game season. We play the JV of colleges, which is different from the academies that play at other high schools. We're playing the JV of colleges, which gives them college film, which gives them nine, right? It gives them 9 college visits, unofficial college visits, and then colleges get to see these athletes. And then guess what? If they don't want to play anymore because they have gotten the college experience, they see what it's all about, they realize that it's not for them. They have a trade. They have a certificate trade that they can, I don't want to say fall back on, that they can move forward on, right?
Yeah.
But let's say, hey, I want to continue to play. No problem. These colleges like you. They look at the film. It's clean. Your social media is all nice and sexy for them to look at. Then they can move forward with the college. And in the summertime, that job that we talk about in the summertime, they can go ahead and be a physical trainer for somebody. So that's what we started.
That is amazing and so inspiring. We will put the link in there. It's 9010 Sports. We'll put it in the show notes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
No, that's another talk. Well, all right. So 9010 Sports, yes, but it's 9010 Sports and Vocational Academy. So it's www.
Academy. Okay, I was missing that piece.
Right. It's www.ntsva.org.
Okay.
We got it.
We'll put it in there. All the things. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time with us. I love just the story that you have and the mindset, the mentor mindset that you have, and that athletes are built through dedication, the resilience, and the right mindset. And for anybody who has found value in today's episode, make sure you share it with a coach, a teammate. Check out Michael's insights with 9010 and the website we're going to put in the show notes. And thank you so much, Michael, for all of your wisdom.
Thank you for having me. I want to come back.
Please do. We'll come back and we're going to hit more on how this school prepares and the advantages to that type of education. That's awesome. Very cool.
You guys are doing an amazing job, and appreciate this podcast because there's a lot of people out there who need it.
Thank you. A lot of people need you. Thank you.
Yes.
Amazing.
I'm going to end recording. Give me 1 second. You don't have to go anywhere. Okay. Thanks so much for joining us on Game Changers Athlete Edition. Remember, champions aren't born. They're built through dedication, perseverance, and the right mindset. If you found value in today's episode, share it with a teammate, with a coach, or someone who could benefit from this conversation. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast and follow us on social media for exclusive content and daily motivation. Until next time, keep pushing your limits and stay focused on becoming the game changer you're meant to be.